verses 1 through 10. It's Surah 7, 1 through 10. عفوا Surah, the 8th Surah, Surah Al-Anfal. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسألونك عن الأنفال قل الأنفال لله والرسول فاتقوا الله وأصلحوا ذات بينكم وأطيعوا الله ورسوله إن كنتم مؤمنين. إنما المؤمنون الذين إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم وإذا تليت عليهم آياته زادتهم إيمانا وإذا تليت عليهم آياته زادتهم إيمانا وعلى ربهم يتوكلون. الذين يقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. أولئك هم المؤمنون حقا لهم درجات عند ربهم ومغفرة ورزق كريم. كما أخرجك ربك من بيتك بالحق وإن فريقا من المؤمنين لكارهون. يجادلونك في الحق بعدما تبين كأنما يساقون إلى الموت الموت وهم ينظرون وإذ يعدكم الله إحدى الطائفتين أنها لكم وتودون أن غير ذات الشوكة تكون لكم ويريد الله أن يحق الحق بكلماته ويقطع دابر الكافرين ليحق الحق ويبطل الباطل ولو كره المجرمون إذ تستغيثون ربكم فاستجاب لكم أني ممدكم بألف من الملائكة مردفين وما جعله الله إلا بشرى ولتطمئن به قلوبكم وما النصر إلا من عند الله إن الله عزيز حكيم وما جعله الله إلا بشرى ولتطمئن به قلوبكم وما النصر إلا من عند الله إن الله عزيز حكيم صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد
Can we give another salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad to our brother Ibrahim on the beautiful station? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على مبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبا القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. Assalamu alaikum, respected sisters and brothers, our dear respected Sheikh Aus. We welcome you to the first night of the UNI programs. Inshallah, tonight's lecture will be on Islam and the evolution and sciences. So we do hope you enjoy that. If you have any questions, inshallah, there'll be a short Q&A after. Just a reminder that our bookstore is now officially open here. The Medina bookstore will open after the lecture tonight, inshallah. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome our dear respected Sheikh Aus with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. ثانية على حب الحسن والحسين. ثالثة على حب سيدة نساء العالمين بأعلى أصواتكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين صلوات. صل على واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم وقوله الحق. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Holy Quran, and what he says is the truth. In the chapter of Fussilat, chapter 41, verse 53, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق أولم يكفي بربك أنه على كل شيء قدير. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states here, he says, and we will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that he is the truth. Is it not sufficient for them that he bears witness over all things? صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all of you on the coming of the holy month of Ramadan. In this most important months, I should say, the month in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the best of months, right? Its days are the best of days, according to Prophet Muhammad. Its nights are the best of nights. Its hours are the best of hours. This month is truly a month of opportunity. It is a month in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us his guests. هُوَ شَهْرٌ دُعِيتُمْ فِيهِ إِلَىٰ ضِيَافَةِ اللَّهِ, the Holy Prophet said. Now, this is an extreme honor, to be a guest of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to be deemed worthy of being min ahli karamatillah, according to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, which means that we have been deemed worthy in this month of what? Of receiving the grace of Allah, the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so that is why our breath in this month is considered to be tasbih. And fasukum fihi tasbihun wa nawmukum fihi ibadah. Our very breath in this month is an exaltation, and our sleep in this month is worship, subhanallah. So when in regular days we fight with our parents regarding how long we may want to sleep in this month we have a hujjah over our parents, right? We can say to them, the Prophet says, Nawmukum fihi ibadah. I'm worshiping Allah by sleeping. I'm staying out of trouble, right, Alex? Right? So not only that, what does the Prophet say? He says, وَعَمَلُكُمْ فِيهِ مَقْبُولٌ. And your deeds in this month are accepted. Every other month, I might start a deed with a great intention, but then my deed falls off, right? It doesn't follow suit. It's not in parallel with my intention. So in this month, however, no, that's not the case. Allah guarantees that He will accept my deeds. You know, sometimes I do good deeds. I might volunteer in the center. I might help a friend, right? And I say, I don't know, will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this deed from me or not? Right? I might, for example, serve the community and then say, at the beginning, my intention was servitude, but then what ended up happening was duplicity entered my heart. I ended up liking myself a little too much for what I did, being a little too proud of what I did, doing it not only for others, for Allah to see it, and for the sake and sincerity, right, within my heart for Allah in servitude, but rather what ended up happening was I ended up wanting others to see me serve, right? But in this month, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't worry, right? Don't worry. In this month, I will reward you the deeds that you do. You will receive full credit for everything that you do in this month, right? And so what does He also say after that? He says, وَدُعَاءُكُمْ فِيهِ مُسْتَجَابٌ. And your dua in this month is accepted. Allahu Akbar. How beautiful is that, right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept our dua in this month. And so what does He say? He says, فَسَلُوا رَبَّكُمْ. He says, therefore ask your Lord, بِقُلُوبٍ بِنِيَّاتٍ صَادِقَةٍ وَقُلُوبٍ طَاهِرَةٍ. He says, therefore ask your Lord with this mindset, right? With intentions that are true to Allah. sincerely to Allah, right? In dedication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at the mindset He wants me to be in when I start this month, right? بِقُلُوبٍ بِنِيَّاتٍ صَادِقَةٍ وَقُلُوبٍ طَاهِرَةٍ. And hearts that have been purified from hasad, from envy, from hatred towards others, right? From pride, right? So purifying our hearts and making sure that our intentions are true to Allah and Allah alone is one of our goals in this holy month, okay? So then what should we ask for? After He tells us this, what I should ask for, you would think then, is not going to be something that is materialistic, right? Does that make sense? I'm not going to ask for, everything, du'a'akum in this month is mustajab. The Prophet says your dua is accepted. However, what should I ask for? The Lambo? The Bugatti? To be the greatest influencer on TikTok and Instagram? Is that my goal, right? To have a great Discord channel that is better than any other Discord that's out there? No, that's not my goal. That's not what I should be asking for, the Holy Prophet says. Right, Alex? The Prophet, what does he say? He says, what I should be asking for, right? What I need to be asking for is أن يوفقكم لصيامه وتلاوة كتابه. لصيامه وقيامه وتلاوة كتابه. He says, after you purify your intentions, right? You purify your heart, your sincerity is all to Allah, then you're going to say, oh Allah, I dedicate myself in this month to you and to no other. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. And so what do I ask for? The Prophet tells me, he says, I will tell you what to ask for. Right? He says, أن يوفقكم لصيامه وقيامه وتلاوة كتابه. That Allah makes you successful in fasting this holy month and in reciting His holy book. Two main goals for us to achieve in this month. So now you know, right? Before I get started with Islam and atheism, right? And everything else, right? We need to set the standard from the beginning of the month that in this month of the Holy Quran, this month of Allah, this month of dua, what we need to ask for and what our goals truly are. Yes, if I'm right, tell me you're right. I always tell my wife to tell me I'm right. I love to hear that I'm right. Sheikh Ali will tell you. Okay, so now that we understand this, right? That means that one of the primary things that I need to do in this holy month is ensure that I go over the sermon of the Holy Prophet, right? In welcoming the month of Ramadan. Now, if you haven't heard the sermon before, right? Then approach me at the end of the lecture and I will make it available to you, inshallah. Right? I will give you the Arabic and the English translation. And if you want me to sit with you and explain it to you in detail, I will do so as well gladly. Right? I'd be honored if you ask me to. Right? Okay. So now let's get started with the topic of tonight. Because surely, in order for us to do dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to purify our intentions and to dedicate ourselves and to be completely sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what we have to do first and foremost, realize who Allah is, right? We take for granted that we are born into Muslim families, right? And not only that, we are born into families that are followers of Ahlul Bayt. What a great honor. So many people out there don't have this great honor. Why did Allah honor me with this? Right? Why did Allah honor me with this? Think about how honored you should be. Well, I don't know, Sheikhna. It should be just as honored as anybody else is when they come into this world, right? Well, how do I realize that surely I should be honored? This is where we have to start off from point zero, okay? We have to build a strong foundation. This foundation is extremely important, not only to each and every single one of us, right? But it's important to those who will come into contact with you, because you will be a source of information, a beacon of light for non-Muslims and Muslims alike. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. Good. So then that means that I want you to focus and I want you to take notes, right? I will count this like a class that I'm giving you, a knowledge seekers class. And those of you who have taken my classes with the knowledge seekers, you know what that's about, right? Yes? Okay, Abu Jasim, don't not because you still haven't taken a class officially, but I'm not going to tell anyone, just between you and me. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So where do we start? How do I prove that Allah exists? So many times I talk to my brothers and my sisters. Just the other day I sat with a brother. The other day also I sat with a sister. And they're telling me about the issues that they're going through. And I asked them a simple question. I said, prove to me that Allah exists. And the first thing that they would say to me, and this is across the board, well, I mean, I exist. So who created me? I said, well, I'm asking you, right? Well, I mean, what about the Quran? The Quran exists. Who could have written it? Okay, that's good. That's a start. It's a good start. But there's stuff before that you have to prove first before you tell me the Holy Quran. Because what are you going to do? Go to a Christian and say, look, then who created this Quran? Right? What's he going to say? I don't believe in your book. So how is that proof upon them? Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. Then the person said to me, well, what about the tree outside? Who created it? What created the universe? I said, okay, this is very good, but I'm asking you the same question. And you're posing the same question back to me. You haven't answered the question. I know what they mean, right? They're talking about cause and what? And effect, right? But they're not expressing it well. So how can I express myself better? And I'll simplify it for you, okay? I'll simplify it for you. And just because this is a simple way of proving it, I don't want you to discount, okay, to discount it at all. Because I used this in MIT and Harvard on some professors, and believe it or not, they didn't believe in God, and they ended up believing in God, okay? So don't discount this proof, okay? All right, so let's get started. So let's look at creators, right? Creators, if you notice them, you'll notice that they have a commonality between them, right? Creators are greater than what they create, agreed? Let me give you an example. Your mom brought you to this world. Is she just a mom? Or is she also a wife, a mother, a lawyer maybe, an engineer, a housewife? She's more than just being what? Being the person who brought you to this world, your mother. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. Right? A painter is greater than what they paint, right? They could also be a lawyer. They could also be a doctor. They could also be a father. They can also be a mother. Agreed? Good. All right, a cook is greater than what they cook. Agreed? That's a creation as well. They create with their hands. An engineer is greater than what they create as well. The bridges, the buildings, the roadways, right? Do you agree? If you agree, say I agree. Good. So then can we all agree that the creator of something is greater than what they create? Yes? If yes, say khosh. Very good, mashallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now keep that concept in mind, because now we're going to apply it to all of limitation and say the creator of all of limitation, everything that is limited, he's also going to be greater than what he creates. Agreed? And if he's greater than limitation, then he is unlimited. Ahsantum. How long did that take? 2 minutes? 5 minutes? Right? We just proved that not only is there a creator, but the most important characteristic of this creator is that he is, say it loud, say it proud, ahsantum. Why is this important? Because since Allah is unlimited, he neither has a beginning nor an end. Agreed? Because a beginning is a limit and an end is a limit. Agreed? Which means he always existed and will always exist. Right? Which means that if somebody asks you, well, who created him? Then what's the answer, Alex? It's the wrong question. Exactly, Ahsan. It's the wrong question, right? He is the creator of all things. He is the uncreated. You see? He is the supreme creator of all things. So asking that question is wrong. Got it? Now, if somebody tells you, well, what about if there's a creator in this world and a creator in another world, in this universe or that universe, what are you going to say to them? You're going to say, well, the fact that they're limited by this universe and limited by the other universe, that means that they're what? Limited or unlimited? Limited. So that means they cannot be the creator himself. Make sense? If it makes sense, say it makes sense. Good. So now that I understand this, I say, okay, well, flaws are limitations. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. Right? So based on that, that means that God is flawless because God has no limits, just as we're able to prove. Yes? If yes, say khosh. Thank you. I love hearing khosh. All right, so now the next thing is what? Is to say, all right, since I realize that the Creator is flawless, that means that another word for flawless, the sisters know this one really well, is what? Perfect. Ahsantum. That means that the Creator is all perfect. Okay? And since He is unlimited and He is everywhere, He sees all things without the need of eyes. He hears all things without the need of an auditory apparatus, right? Agreed? He's everywhere, which means I'm always in the presence of Allah. Agreed? Now just think about that. Take a pause and think about that. I am in the presence of greatness. Every single breathing moment of my life I have been, and I didn't even realize it. I say bad things and I do wrong things, and Ya Bashum. If my parents were looking at me, how would I act? I'd act perfectly, right? Right? Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, right? When my parents are there. But as soon as they leave, what happens? I go to Hemlock and I take TikToks in the middle of the winter without anybody knowing. I actually saw this, that's why I'm mentioning this, okay? Right? But who sees me at all times? Who? Allah. The other most profound thing, and this is paradigm shifting information I'm giving you, agreed? This changes your mindset, the very principles with which you lead your life. When I realize that my Creator is unlimited and that He truly exists and that He is everywhere, now I become mindful of Him. I become aware of His presence, right? I walk in His existence. I breathe in His existence, right? So how can I ever have the audacity to offend Him and to be disobedient to Him? It's paradigm shifting. So in this month, what I want you to do is I want you really to take that concept in and to really feel as though you are in the presence of Allah. There is no other month that we feel the presence of Allah more than the holy month of Ramadan. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. So now what do I come to understand from this? Let's take it one step further. Since the Creator is unlimited and He is all perfect and He is everywhere, and that means He's all knowledgeable, He knows what is within our hearts, right? He's closer to us than our own jugular vein, than our own thoughts, right? The all perfect means that He is also all purposeful, because it would be bad to do something without purpose, right? Just out of vanity. Does that make sense? Agreed? Yes? If yes, say khosh. Good. So now that I realize this, I realize, well, Allah is all purposeful, which means He creates with a purpose. I am here for a purpose and with a purpose, right? It also means that since the Almighty, the Unlimited, the All-Perfect created me, then how worthy am I? How worthy am I and how valuable am I? Am I a little valuable? Or extremely valuable to my Creator, if He deemed me worthy of existing? Why do I look towards others for my self-worth? Why do I look towards the cool kids or my boss or my friends or for validation? I don't need them to validate me, to validate my worth. My self-esteem comes from Allah, not from them. Does that make sense? If it makes sense, tell me that it makes sense. You see how profound Tawheed is? This is Tawheed. So when you hear the word Tawheed, oh, you need to have Tawheed, brother. This is what Tawheed is, right? Tawheed is realizing all of this, being aware of it, right? And acting based upon the knowledge that you now have, right? So then I realize, since He's all perfect, He's all purposeful, right? He's given me my worth, right? Not only that, since He is all perfect, that means He's all just. He doesn't oppress. Not even an atom's worth. Not even a quark's worth. Which means if I see atrocities happening in this world, like we're seeing in Palestine, is that Allah's fault? Or is it the doing of human beings' own choices? Since Allah is all perfect and He doesn't oppress, then who is oppressing? Say it out loud. Who is oppressing? Me or Allah? Humanity or Allah? Humanity, right? Now you're going to say to me, okay, but why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow this to happen? Well, let me ask you this. Oppression is bad, agreed? Yes? Does anybody like to be forced to do anything? Do you all like to be forced to do stuff? You would consider it to be cruel if you were forced to do something, agreed? If you agree, say I agree. Yes? Okay, good. So that means then you love choice, right? Everybody loves choice. Yes? Agreed? Choice is good. And oppression, being forced to do something, compulsion, is bad. Agreed? Good. So then based on that, Allah is all perfect. He would only do what is good, right? So that means He will give me choice and He will not oppress me and force me to do anything. Does that make sense? He won't even force me to follow His religion. He won't even force me to choose Him. إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. You have the choice. Either you are thankful and you follow the straight path and you follow my rulings, Allah says, or no. Or you're disbelieving. And that's up to you. Because Allah does not need, because He's all perfect. So then who needs? Who needs? Say it. We need. So that means choice is something that we need. Choice is important for us. Why then is choice good and important to us? We realize it's good, right? Because it's clear that we don't like to be forced to do anything. But then the choices that we're giving might put us into trials and tribulations. We'll talk about that, inshallah, later. But what's important here for us to realize is this, is that my purpose, first and foremost, is once I realize that Allah the Almighty, the Unlimited, created me. That means that just like I feel a sense of obligation to my parents to make them proud, right? Agreed? Even when you get older, by the way, your parents will tell you, and even your grandparents will say, I wish my mom could see me now. وين أمي؟ لتشوف حفيدي. صح? For example, right? Where is my mom? I wish she could see my grandkids. Right? You always feel a sense of obligation towards your parents. Why do you feel that sense of obligation? Because what did they do for you? What did they do? They raised you. What else did they do? Took care of you. What else did they do? They loved you. They taught you. They sheltered you. Taught you how to walk, how to talk, right? Took you to school. Changed your diapers, right? So we feel the sense of obligation to please them all the time. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. So doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by priority have an even greater right upon us than them and their parents and their parents? The one who not only gave us our parents and our grandparents, but He gave us the very breath with which we breathe and the very existence with which we can think and rationalize. Agreed? So then Allah is more worthy of my allegiance. Allah is more worthy of my obedience. Allah is more worthy of me making Him happy and pleased with me. Yes? If yes, say yes. Say you're right, Shaykhna. Say it loud. You know I love hearing that I'm right. Okay, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So that means then my greatest purpose is what? My greatest purpose is to show gratitude to Allah, to thank Him for giving me existence. Yes? And that gratitude has to be manifested with what? With everything that He has given me. I should utilize every single thing that Allah has given me towards making Him happy and pleased with me. Agreed? So I'm going to dedicate my thoughts and my vision and my hearing and my very words and my hands and my feet and everything He's given me towards pleasing Him alone. Make sense? فَسَلُوا اللَّهَ بِنِيَّاتٍ صَادِقَةٍ. And therefore ask Allah with true intentions. So now you understand what the Prophet is saying here. Your true intention is your true dedication to Allah and sincerity. Got it, Ibrahim? Ahsant. Okay, so where does this take me now? This now takes me to Atheism. Let's talk a little about atheism. And I'll give you a little story, okay? Actually, I'll give you two stories. One simple story that has to do with what atheists want us to believe, that this world came out of coincidence, right? This is what we hear from many atheists, yes? And by the way, atheists are of two types. Not all atheists are bad. There are atheists that are stubborn, right? They have jahl murakkab, right, Sheikh Ali? Jahl murakkab, right? Which is compound ignorance, which means, they're wrong. They might even know that they're wrong. They might not know that they're wrong, but they insist on the fact that they are wrong, okay? And they don't accept anybody correcting them. While simple ignorance is a person who knows that they could be wrong and they're willing to be corrected, okay? So those who have simple ignorance are those who are willing to listen. They are searching for the truth, right? Atheists, if you ask me, are sometimes easier to convince than some Muslims. Why? Because they're open to suggestion. They don't have any preconceived notions. Does that make sense? If it makes sense, say it makes sense. So now that I understand this, now I have to realize that, look, this atheist is a creation of Allah, just like I am a creation of Allah, which means he is worthy of my tolerance and he is worthy of my time, right? And Allah has given him an opportunity with the very breath that he breathes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all fair. Notice his justice. His justice is at a level where he allows even those who do not choose him, who defy him, who are disobedient to him, who defy his laws, right? He still allows them another chance by giving them another breath, right? He gives them another chance and another opportunity to find him, to seek him, right? And to believe in him. Even if they die atheists, right? He still gives them an opportunity to the very last breath. Agreed? So now, when I'm talking to this atheist, and I'll give you a simple example, I'll give you this story, and then I'll give you, another story that has to do with that MIT professor and Harvard professor that I talked to. Okay, so there was this professor in Sydney. Okay, and this professor, he decided he had to go to a conference, and to get to the conference, normally he would take a car, but he decided to walk. So they waited for him an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours passed. Finally, he shows up. They said, "Where have you been? We've been waiting for you. You were to deliver the keynote speech." He said, "Well, you see, today I decided to walk. I walked and walked and walked. Finally, I got to the riverbank. And this was a pretty big river, so I had to sit there and wait." "What did you wait for?" "Oh, I waited for a bunch of twigs to come together and to form a raft. And once that happened, it only took about 3 hours. So I got on the raft, I crossed, and now I'm here." They ridiculed him, right? As you would imagine, right? They said, "What do you mean a raft came together in 3 hours? That's ridiculous. That's absolutely impossible. You must be nuts to think that we'd believe you." He said, "Oh, really?" He said, "And yet, this world, with all complexity, right? With all of the planets and the universe and the universes, if you believe in the multiverse, right? And DNA and RNA and atoms and quarks, you want me to believe that all of this world with all of its complexity came out of coincidence, and yet you won't even believe that a small raft would come together out of coincidence? Who must ridicule who? Me? Ridicule me, or me ridicule you?" Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Simple story, right? You think you can remember it? You think you can use it? Good, okay. Next story, and this is a true story. When I told you that I sat with this MIT professor, and actually it was the month of Muharram, and it was right after Al-Ashir. I had read the Maqtal, and I was giving lectures for 3 nights, and I was sitting there, we were eating after the program had finished, and as we were sitting and we were eating, one of the professors, he said, "You Muslims are strange." I said, "Oh, I thought you were Muslim." He said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Well, what's your claim?" He said, "Well, my claim is this. You believe that Prophet Muhammad is the best human being in all of the universe, and there are many universes, right? Yet we haven't seen all of the other universes. So how can you prove to me that he is the best of all creation?" So I got him to admit that he's an atheist. He finally actually admitted, "I'm an atheist." Because I said, "If you're saying this, that means you're not taking the word of God, which means you don't believe in God." He said, finally, in front of everyone, he broke down. He said, "Yes, I don't believe in God." I said, "Okay, so let me ask you this. Let's agree on something. do you believe that creators are better and greater than what they create? He said, yes. I said, okay. I said, so what about the creator of all of limitation? Is he going to be greater than limitation? He said, okay, yes. I said, so then that means then the creator of all of limitation must be what? He said, unlimited. I said, there you go. Did you prove that he exists and that he is unlimited? He said, yes. Okay. Yeah, I got it. I told him, now, if this unlimited being tells you this is the best of creation, are you going to believe him or no? He said, yes. I said, well, there you go. Right? It took a few minutes, just a few minutes, and he ended up believing in Allah. That's why I told you, don't discredit and don't disqualify the proof that I gave you. As quick and easy as it is, okay, it's actually very profound, right? And you will be able to use it. All right? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. All right. So the next thing that we want to talk about that they have on the agenda for me is evolution and, of course, coincidence, right? Meaning the sciences. So let's talk a little first about coincidence. Now, we proved that coincidence doesn't exist with that story of the professor in Sydney, right? But I want you to think about coincidence in a very rational way, right? Because remember, we said that choice is good, we have choice, right? So that means then that when I decide to leave my house, okay, and let's say I'm Sheikh Ali's neighbor, right? We're right next to each other. Sheikh Ali leaves his house, he decides to turn left. I leave my house, I decide to turn right. We're on the same street, we're right next to each other. We leave at the same place at the same time. Okay? Are we going to bump into each other or no? Yes, of course. We left at the same time, right? We live right next to each other. He comes out, he goes left. I come out, I go right. So what happens? We see each other. What do we say? What a coincidence. But was it a true coincidence? Or was it two incidents that coincided by choice? Two incidents that coincided by choice. Or an incident that coincided by choice. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. That means then that there's nothing that's random, really. Okay? There's no such thing as coincidence. You say, yeah, but Sheikhna, right? But what about, for example, a randomness, right? I spoke with a physicist, and he said, a particle physicist, and he said to me, yeah, but Sheikhna, what about randomness? I said, okay, so you have a particle generator, and you are bombarding, right, this specific particle with other particles, right, in a vacuum. He said, yes. This is for the scientists of you. How many of you like science? Okay, good. So you're bombarding, right? He said, yes. I said, within a vacuum. He said, yes. I said, what you are calling randomness, is it true randomness, or do you know the speed and acceleration of each particle? He said, oh, no, we do know the speed and acceleration of each particle. I said, well, what controls the movement of these particles? The natural laws of nature or no? He said, yes, the natural laws of nature. I said, okay, so where's the coincidence then? Where's the randomness? There are laws that are governing the movement of these particles. He said, yes. I said, you know the acceleration? He said, yes. I said, so that means then what you're calling randomness is what is unknown to you, what you're trying to measure. It's a variable that you're trying to measure. Agreed? He said, yes, I agree. I said, so then is there real randomness? He said, no. So let me explain to you by giving you some simple examples. A man by the name of Edward Lorenz, right? In the 1960s, this meteorologist came out and coined this term, chaos theory. Today, we believe that chaos is what? Disorganization, right? Disorganization, randomness, agreed? But this man proved that in actual fact, what we call chaos is actually a supreme form of organization. He studied atmospheric systems, and he discovered the algorithm that determines how the atmosphere actually works. He said the problem is that when we look at something and it looks too complex and complicated, right? We don't know the science behind it. Until we have the tools of measure to figure out the science, we assume that it's unknown to us, and therefore it must be random or coincidental. You see? So really then, what we're all waiting for is just the next technology, right? More knowledge to be able to do what? To discover this reality. And how many scientific proofs have we been able to prove that one day they said the earth was flat, and then Galileo comes along and says, no, he proves that the earth is what? Is spherical, right? And then you have, they say that the earth is still, and then Copernicus comes along and says, no, it rotates around the axis. In actual fact, it rotates around the sun, right? And both were assassinated at the time. They were incarcerated and they were killed for their thoughts. You see? So that means then, if I don't understand something scientifically, it's only because I don't have the tools of measure yet, right? What they used to call, before nothingness, they started to call dark matter. Matter, right? They started to say that things would come out of quarks. They would pop out, pop in, for those who like science, right? Am I right or am I wrong? If I'm right, say you're right. Right? So that means then, it's because we're limited by these tools that we can't, discover them. Once we have the technology, we're able to discover these realities. Lastly, theory of evolution. And we'll finish with this, okay? So everybody knows the theory of evolution was developed by whom? Charles Darwin. Ahsantum, exactly, right? Charles Darwin died in the year 1882. Charles Darwin was actually a botanist, okay? And what he would do is he would go around England and he would document and catalog all the different types of plant species. He actually presented his catalog to the Royal Society of Botany in Britain. And they actually took his catalog and they said, okay, you did such a great job. We want you to go around the world and we want you to prove or catalog all of the plants of the world. So he convinces his dad, right, who pays for the trip, and he goes around the world doing so. He gets to the Galapagos Islands, right? In the Galapagos Islands, what does he see? He sees a bunch of finches, right? He notices between the islands that there are similarities between these finches, but their beaks differ a little, right? So he says, well, there's got to be a relationship between them. So far, he hasn't said anything about apes, okay? And if you read his book, The Origin of the Species, does he mention apes? Alex? No, he doesn't mention apes, okay? What does he mention? Now, what did we learn in school about the theory of evolution, right? We learned that what humans came from apes, as though it's what? As though it's reality. Agreed? Yes? If yes, say khosh. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. By the way, in the Knowledge Seekers course, each single item that I've mentioned to you and explained to you is actually a separate class, just so that you know, right, Sheikh Ali? Right, Alex? Right? So we are compressing a lot of information in one. So I want you to review the recording when you're unsure, because this is recorded, right? Awesome. So you can go back and you can look at the recording, take out the clips that benefit you, that will help you when you're discussing with others, okay? And prepare yourself before you talk to them with these videos. Sounds good? If it sounds good, say sounds good. Good. So what do we find in the book of The Origin of the Species? Chapter 6. We find that he actually doesn't mention anything about evolution, but he says that he noticed a bear and how he would actually fish by opening his mouth wide. And he also noticed a whale and how that whale would be fishing the same way, by opening its mouth wide. He said that I can see that there could be that this animal, being the bear, would actually maybe have changed into a whale. So while we learned that humanity or creation started from the ocean or from water and then moved on to land, right? And they tell us this is actually part of the theory of evolution. Charles Darwin never even mentioned it, never even suggested it. In actual fact, he suggested the exact opposite. The exact opposite, right? So where do they get this from? And who is benefiting from this? First of all, let's explain one thing, okay? Evolution is of two types, microevolution and macroevolution. Microevolution are these minor changes that occur within a species as a result of natural selection. Okay? Everybody's heard of natural selection. We've seen it on the Discovery Channel, right? On National Geographic, when you see the cheetahs running after the gazelle, right? Or the lion, one of them is really, skinny and unable to feed themselves or capture prey, while the other one is really strong. So only the strongest survive. That is the survival of the fittest. That's microevolution. So what is macroevolution? Macroevolution is what they have taught us as though it's fact. right? It's when one species turns into a totally different species. Now, in order for them to try to prove this point, they said, okay, well, really what we're looking for, right, to bridge the gap between, right, the apes and the human being is what's called a missing link. Now, they tried finding these missing links. They have many iterations of what they claim to be the missing link. Lucy, Alex, the Neanderthal, in every single point, they were able to make this claim, but they would discredit themselves later on and say, oh, it came to be that we discovered this isn't actually the missing link. Today, this idea of the missing link has actually been abandoned. Okay? Instead, what people grab onto is what? Is the Human Genome Project. Okay? They say, well, hang on, but there's a similarity between our genes and the genes of apes, right? There's actually a 99% similarity. So they must be our ancestors, right? Well, this is what we say to them. We say to them, look, there's a 37% similarity or match between our genes and the genes of a fruit fly. Does that mean a fruit fly is our ancestor? Of course not, right? Of course not. In actual fact, what this tells us is that we all have the same base code. If you look at the genes, you will find that there's going to be a trait for eyes. Since the fly has eyes and I have eyes, then there's a similarity, right? Okay. Since the fruit fly has limbs and I have limbs, then there's a similarity. But there's a difference in the number of limbs. There's a difference in the type of eyes. A fly has compound eyes. I don't, right? Now, the more similarities we have in terms of our traits, right, the more the percentage similarity will increase as well. But that by no means suggests that we are ancestors. Rather, that this base code comes from one singular programmer. And anyone who knows programming will tell you this. And I was talking with a bunch of programmers in Silicon Valley, right? And I was giving them this coursework. And you know what they said? One of them said, listen, guys, a good coder, do they rewrite their base code or do they always use the same base code? I said, no, of course, a good coder or programmer always uses the same base code and then they build on it. They said, so that means then in order for you to know the programmer, right, you need to look at their code because it tells you who they are, right? So then that tells us then that we have the same programmer, the same engineer who created all of creation. Does that make sense? If it makes sense, say it makes sense. All right. So with that, then, we covered several things. As a quick recap, we were able to prove the existence of Allah. Am I right? If I'm right, say you're right. Good. We were able to prove that the Creator is unlimited. Am I right? If I'm right, say you're right. We were able to prove that the fact that He is unlimited means that He is all perfect, He's all purposeful, He's all just, He is all knowing, and He is all wise. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. And based on that, we proved that since He is all purposeful, that means we have a purpose. Agreed? And since we have proven that we have purpose, we realize that our purpose, first and foremost, is to thank Him and show gratitude to Him. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. Good. Look at how many realities we were able to uncover. We said that since that's the case, that means I must dedicate everything that I have, right, to the obedience of Allah, to pleasing Him. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. Perfect. All right. So then we said, Allah also has given us our worth. Agreed? Good. And that I am always in the presence of Allah, and what we will exercise this month is being in the presence of Allah. Really feeling that. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. Good. And we also were able to disprove this theory of evolution until they bring us evidence that's stronger than what they have, right? Then we'll have that discussion. Until now, they still don't have enough, right? We're not saying that necessarily all of it is wrong. We agree with survival of the fittest, microevolution. But macroevolution still has to be proven with all due respect. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. Good. And then this whole idea of coincidence and chaos actually doesn't exist. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. And even Stephen Hawking, the one who has the book who has M theory, who talked about the boson particle and the Big Bang theory, which we believe in, by the way, right? He says that when the world came together with this explosion of reaction of the boson particles, he says the only thing is that we don't know what the cause of the reaction was. He doesn't say that there wasn't a creator that made that reaction occur. Okay? Remember that. right? Remember them, right? I ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to gain knowledge, to continue seeking knowledge in this holy month. This lecture today was a foundational lecture. Tomorrow, inshallah, we will prove Shi'ism as I understand, yes? So make sure that you come so that you understand the privilege and the honor that we have of following the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salat wa salam. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين والفاتح على أرواح المرحومين. And we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hastens the appearance of Imam al-Hujjah salamullahi alayhi, and that he frees the people of Palestine, and he rids us of all oppression in this world. Ya Rabb al-Alameen. Al-Ajal, Al-Ajal, Ya Mawlaya, Ya Sahib al-Zaman. All together. Al-Ajal, Al-Ajal, Ya Mawlaya, Ya Sahib al-Zaman. Al-Ajal, Al-Ajal, Ya Mawlaya, Ya Sahib al-Zaman. Al-Ajal, Al-Ajal, Ya Mawlaya, Ya Sahib al-Zaman. We recite Al-Fatiha for the hastening of the appearance of Imam al-Hujjah and for the souls of all those dearly departed, whether in Palestine or in other parts of the world who have been oppressed. Masbuqatan mashfu'atan bis-salati ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salawat. Jazakumullah.
I'm sorry, if I can just please have your attention for 1 second before you leave. Inshallah, tomorrow we will try to incorporate a question and answer into the lecture after. Bismillah. Also, just for you guys to know, the theme of our Ramadan programs this year is reclaiming the narrative. We will select 30 unique different topics, and we will have Sheikh Aus and then Sheikh Ayad in the last 15 days re-explain our actual belief as 12 sect Shia Muslims on them, help us to re-understand some things we might have learned that were wrong, and help us have discussions that are faith-based and that we believe in, inshallah. For those who are interested, the library is open now, and the donation box is in the back. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.